Well, thank you to everyone who's joined so far, and I'll keep letting people in if they come. Welcome to this FEM session, the 1st of October today. Can't believe it's
Yeah.
counting down now super quick towards Christmas. But this session is with Olivia, and we're talking about reasons, benefits, and purpose of trying to, and I say trying to because I think it'll become apparent we're both trying to run a side hustle alongside your main role. In my case, being the owner and main planner at Magenta, and in Olivia's case, her role at Brooks McDonald. Um, so we're going to talk about side hustles today. Olivia has kindly agreed to talk to us about it, and her main drive here is that she's running and involved in the initiative within from Brooks McDonald called Female Folio. So Olivia joined Brooks McDonald in 2019, and she provides advice in a big wide range of areas, including investments, retirement planning, family and business protection, as well as inheritance tax. And previously, she specialised in mortgage and equity release as well. And she's with the CII and holds the diploma in financial planning. So she's super qualified to talk to us and everything else that she's doing at Brooks McDonald. So there we have it. I've got some questions that we prepped in advance, and the first one, Olivia, was to tell us a little bit about your role and especially your work with Female Folio. So shall we begin there so you can tell us a little bit more?
Absolutely. And, thank you ever so much for asking me and having me. I've, listened to some of the other FFEM events and really enjoyed them. So it was felt, felt quite special to be asked. So thank you for that. So yeah, as Gretchen said, I'm an advisor at Brooks McDonald, but focusing more on female folio. A few years ago, some of my colleagues at Brooks started Female Folio. Shout out to kind of Sasha, Jenny, Phoebe, and Claire. And then about a year into it, a couple of years ago, I then got involved. They kind of put the word out to some of the other women at Brooks whether they wanted to be involved in something like this. And it was essentially set up to try and empower more women to get into investing, give them the information and the education that they need to kind of make more informed decisions about their finances and about their journey. So we all know that women are going to hold a lot more of the wealth going forward. The future is not going to look like the past, and generally the industry maybe isn't as set up for them as it needs to be. So we were hoping to be part of that really. We do this through in-person events, trying to get kind of safe spaces for women to talk about these subjects. We also do blog posts and a podcast that you can listen to, which is nice because we talk to industry experts on different areas of financial planning and investing and all those nice things, but hopefully make it a little bit more friendly and warm and relaxed, as opposed to sometimes it can be a little bit stuffy and intimidating. So yeah, that's essentially what we do, or what we do, yeah, how we do it.
Interesting. So I'm going to go off piste immediately from the questions that we
No,
had,
far
Olivia.
away.
Just to ask though, a couple of things that you mentioned there. So, Female Folio is targeted at clients, at the consumer, isn't it? It's something that Brooks McDonald you've designed for the female consumer to kind of encourage more women to invest, right?
That's true, yeah, exactly. But we also try and it's kind of split in events sometimes where we do kind of professional networking as well. Because, like you think solicitors and accountants and people like that who are our professional networks, but also need this education as well. So it's we have rooms full of other female advisors from different companies and then solicitors, accountants, that sort of thing as well. And so there's a split sometimes between the clients and like professional networking.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And interesting that you mentioned like that move from like trying not to be more friendly and approachable and move away from that kind of what we know can be very stuffy and corporate of the investment world. So was that a big, with the ladies that originally designed it, was that kind of a big driver for them?
Absolutely, yeah. Just to try and make it a little bit more accessible, because as I said, the industry at the moment isn't necessarily as accessible for women. It can be quite intimidating. People don't know where to start. I think that's probably more the case for women than it is maybe for men. I mean, that's an overgeneralization. It just seems to be the feedback that we're getting. And so it was trying to create spaces that made women feel comfortable to have these conversations with people who were experts in the field. And yeah, and just not necessarily giving advice or not giving advice in this setting at all. It's just about giving kind of education and information and things like that.
So, what was it that made you, with your full-time role at Brooks, and taking exams and doing all of those things that we
Yeah.
need to do to be qualified? What made you think that's something that I really want to do in addition to my role?
Um, it's something obviously I'm really passionate about. I think a lot of women in the industry are, we see the big gap. And so we don't get this kind of information or financial education at school. We just don't get given it. And so it's just as much any way that I can be a part of that journey and help women control or take control more of their finances, is brilliant and is for the better. So that's really it was just really about that drive and trying to make it a little bit more accessible and um, just something I'm really passionate about, really.
And how are you finding? Because one of the things, I know from my experience of running a business and having various different project, I call them projects. They're projects for me rather than the side hustle. But as I was designing this with you, I realized actually effectively they are a
I
side
know it's weird, isn't
hustle.
it, using the terminology? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the project for me. So how are you managing your time effectively between your day job and the work with Female Folio? And I'm particularly interested, you're in an employed role in a large business. There will be other women who listen back or maybe on the call already where, unlike me, I've got complete autonomy over my business. So, how when we're working in a much larger firm, can we propose that this time is of good use of your time to
Mhm.
the people that you work for, and how are you managing to juggle that?
With difficulty. I'm not gonna, sugarcoat it and say, it's easy. We all know as advisors that our diaries get packed and ultimately clients come first. So, you don't necessarily always get complete control over it. Obviously trying to manage diary efficiently as you can is great. Also leaning because obviously we're a team of women at Brooks who have done this. And so it's very much about leaning on them and their expertise as well. We had the endorsement of Brooks to do this too. So that definitely helped. They could see the value in it. They know that obviously the shift is coming and we need to be better set up for it. And so this was kind of the first step in the right direction, I think, for them. And so, but yeah, all the women in the group come from different backgrounds and have different expertise. So obviously, we've kind of got some marketing ladies and some investment professionals, as in like investment managers and researchers and things like that. So we're all coming at it from different perspectives, which has been really lovely for me because you then get more access to those people and have those conversations, which has always been really helpful. But then just, yeah, leaning on them and making sure that you're kind of delegating and trying to organize things together. It's obviously can be quite difficult because we're all busy. But I think, you know, we're very lucky that Brooke sees the value in it as well. And so has given us the leeway to have the time in our diaries to be able to do that too.
It's quite interesting because when you and I spoke about this originally, Female Folio to me, when you look at the website, and I'll share the website for everybody in the chat. Um, they've done a great job. Clearly, you've got the backing of Brooks to build, this external website, with the information that it's got. And that's a massive plus that you've got them,
Absolutely.
in supporting you and supporting women in Brooks McDonald. But what I found quite interesting, and you and I spoke about it when
Yeah.
we originally planned all the call, etc., was that when I went to the Brooks McDonald website, I can't find a link to Female Folio,
It doesn't go the way
which
around.
it's quite an
Yeah.
interesting one, isn't it? Which is something that, so I think it's quite, we're just being, I'm just being open
Yeah,
about how it looks,
candid. Hmm.
and for everyone else, because you can 100% like have the backing of someone, but like how are you managing that actually is it front and foremost for them? And I think that's the challenge that we do have still. We've got a lot
Yeah.
of people going, yeah, we'll give we'll give you the support, we'll give you the backing, but is it pushing through to like actually, but this is actually so important that it becomes kind of like not center stage, but has
Hmm.
equal standing of representation. But I imagine there's some difficulty around branding and stuff that they were like, we don't know how this fits in. Uh,
Oh, definitely. And I think as well, there's always that challenge of like the marketing regulation and the different hats that you wear depending on what side you're sitting on and stuff. And I know that we're obviously going to talk about challenges, and I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but I think it's quite relevant now that yeah, you want to help clients in a scenario. You're at an event and you see and you spot somebody and you're giving them all the information. With that information, they're thinking, okay, well, I now need to talk to a professional. You have to be quite clear that you're now taking off your female folio hat and putting on your Brooks McDonald hat. And I think navigating that, I'm really pleased that we've got to see some of the marketing girls helping us with that because, yeah, navigating that is not easy at all. What you can and can't say, depending on what space you're in and what capacity you're acting in, is quite tricky. And so you're kind of treading this line, and that's where it gets quite tricky. And I think that's why sometimes there can be a little bit of a disconnect.
mm.
Um, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, it's always going to be something we're
And I
trying
mean,
to
it probably just going to
walk.
get like even a bit more challenging with the FCA's, advice and guidance
Exactly.
stuff they've suddenly thrown in and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? That, it's almost like the female folio sits in a kind of coaching, education,
Yeah,
kind of
information only.
information
Yeah, yeah,
space. And then how does that morph over to the investment
and then
regulated kind of space?
exactly,
And that is something that many businesses and many of us are challenged with,
exactly.
exactly how that's actually working. No, that's interesting. So would you say that the work that you've done, I mean, you've mentioned some of the other ladies that are involved and with different skill sets and you getting to know them, you know, do you think that that's I guess there's two questions. One is around what's been the most significant benefits you've kind of felt by being involved, and then how has it contributed to your kind of maybe fast forwarding or enhancing your professional growth and your career when you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have to say, on a personal level, it's been really rewarding to be a small part of hopefully somebody's journey to being more financially independent. That's for sure. But I think also selfishly, it's helped me win clients and win business, which has always been quite good. So when you're talking to prospective, especially female clients, you can refer them to the podcast, inviting them to an event that you've got coming up. And I think they realize that it is something you're passionate about. And it's also then hopefully raising the profile generally of you and of Brooks too. But yeah, they realize that you actually care about this as something bigger than just like a number on a page or something like that. It's something that you're really passionate about. So I think that's helping me win business and get clients and that's really good. But also it's just the rewarding part of it of hopefully helping.
And also, if we look at it in a completely selfish way, which sometimes we need to,
Yeah.
it it is ticking a box on your career ladder, right? And where you're at and what you're achieving, doing over and above maybe what you were, for example, first
Yeah,
employed
yeah,
to
I'd say so.
do,
Yeah, yeah.
and I imagine that's seen as a positive from a corporate perspective as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I would hope so. It's certainly kind of being candidly, it's certainly something great to have on the CV. Like, and that's probably, it's true of obviously any side hustle that you're doing. It just shows the initiative. It shows the the willingness to, as you say, kind of go above and beyond and do more. It helps obviously when you find something that you are actually really passionate about, because then when you are finding yourself doing hours beyond kind of work days, it makes it a little bit more enjoyable because you are passionate about the subject rather than it being a drag. But that's not always the case because, we like to have our evenings too and our free time.
Yeah, it's all a juggle and a balancing act, isn't it? Um, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start, a side hustle or a project? As I said, sometimes that word is easier, a project, but that's worried about balancing that. You've alluded to, yeah, there are times, and you've said like obviously helps if you're really passionate about it, but have you
Yeah.
got anything else that you've thought of that you would reflecting on it now?
Um, I would, it sounds probably just a bit cliche, but I would just say go for it because, female folio certainly hasn't really gone to plan all the time. It's not been plain sailing. Um, it's been a really great learning experience though, and I think it makes me a better advisor. And it's given me, as I said, kind of exposure to different parts of the business and different people within the business, but also different aspects of running something like this that I would never have had any kind of clue about. I'm not a marketing head. I'm certainly not necessarily on the research side of things, and so they're skill sets that you need sometimes to make things work, and they're just not your strong points. And so leaning on people who have had that is really good. So I think obviously it depends on the side hustle because I appreciate some people will be doing it maybe on their own as opposed to in a team. I think I've just been really lucky to have a team around me. But yeah, go for it because I think the learning experience is always going to be valuable. Having even something on your CV or having something that you can talk about where it's like, okay, well, I had challenges or it didn't maybe go to plan, but we did this or we did that, I think is always going to be something that employers are going to be looking for and really valuing in candidates. So um, I suppose it makes you a more well-rounded person too.
So there's a couple of things I'd probably add. There's a couple of things I'd add to it, but I don't
Mhm.
know. Like I've got slightly different setup. But I
Yeah,
think, yeah, if you're in a business where you can have a group of people who are 100% to the towards that goal, and you can spread the load, then I think that's the ideal scenario.
yeah,
But I would also say that, if people are listening and they're like, oh, I'm a sole advisor or
yeah,
I run my own business, I think that either way, you still need people around you and to bounce ideas off. So if you've got an idea for a project, over the, I've got podcasts, I'm writing a book at the moment, I've got, the fem thing, I've got multiple different things going on.
yeah,
But it can only happen if you've got someone to talk about the initial idea
absolutely.
with
Hmm.
and to like bounce the ideas off, as you've said, and you do need people, even if you might be a naturally creative person, or you might not be, but I certainly can't do everything.
Hmm.
And I think even as a solo advisor, let's say you're wanting to set up a podcast or you're wanting to set up a project, a blog, or further education, or whatever it is that you're wanting to do, I think that you at least need one other person. And it might be you have to go outside. Like if you are working on your own, you might have to go and talk to a peer group and see whether there's someone
Hmm.
else who's also willing to be part of that journey with you. Claire from
Yeah,
Next
yeah,
Gen helps me run FAM. People from Magenta help me check everything's going. So you're not being very isolated is not the way. I don't think the way to go. So as a kind of offshoot from what you've been saying, but just as a
yeah,
different side thing, I think that's quite important. That yeah, there'll always be people willing to volunteer to do things. So if you've got a great idea, as long as you're willing to share it, like why not someone else help you with that?
exactly. And
You
also
know,
just to kind of bounce, as you said, bounce out, even if someone's maybe not going to be involved with the helping of you running it, but just seeing if it was something that they'd be interested in joining in, watching or supporting you. You don't necessarily have to be the ones organizing it, but just, just even, I suppose, if there's any appetite for it as well. So it's important to have a good support network around you.
Think so. And also as a professional, I think it's, the easiest way to have influence is to be a thought leader, and to be recognized in the profession is to be a thought leader and kind of
Hmm.
progress whatever you are. So if you've got an idea and you can go, I'm putting that out there, and I'm,
Yeah,
you might be bullshitting your way through it, as someone would say, fake it till you make it.
yeah,
But it will gain you, traction. It might gain you press. It might mean your name is mentioned. It means you're more Googleable. All of those
absolutely.
kind of things. So I think there's like real positives. And then when we
Yeah,
reflect on it, taking up time, like you've said, actually we can weigh that up against what else is it doing for me in the bigger scheme of
exactly.
things.
And kind of like being bold and brave in it, I suppose, which is, it doesn't always come easily and something doesn't come naturally for me. But yeah, the things that you can weigh up against it, it doesn't have to always go right and always go perfectly for it to still be a really good idea and for it to actually have wings and to start to flourish and become something bigger than you thought. It might not even turn into what you thought it was going to turn into. It could turn into something completely different, but actually, it's all the whole experience along the way. And as you said, if it gets your name mentioned in others in more rooms and you're more Googleable and all those different things that it then attributes to you, I think it then ends up being a lot more worth it.
I think maybe the only thing that we haven't mentioned in this at the moment is that, if we're looking for a side hustle that makes money specifically.
Hmm.
So you have mentioned that the female folio thing has brought you more clients because you're engaging with more females. So that's doing a job and therefore delivering it and
Yeah,
a
kind of like a
money
commercial
in a
outcome
different
type thing.
way.
Yeah,
In a
exactly.
different
Yeah.
way. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when I think about a lot of the kind of side hustles or projects that I've been involved in over the years, or that I know that people are doing, actually a lot of that is to lead in a different way into it creating money or creating a
Yeah.
different kind of income stream. So, I just wanted to kind of cover that because there might be people listening going, well, what am I, want it to specifically make money. I don't have any experience with that. My things are all about how are they leading to better profile, or how are they leading to people finding my website more and engaging with me more as a financial planner.
Yeah.
Um,
And the same really through this. It's not necessarily something that we're gonna start charging people for to have access to any of this. Um, it's more that we're raising the profile of Brooks McDonald hopefully through this and raising the profile of the us as advisors and where you can turn to if you want some more help and that sort of thing, as opposed to. So yeah, you're absolutely right though. I can imagine there are people thinking, yeah, how do I do this and actually have something that I'm making more money off of, right?
yeah. And I mean, they're everything's different, but I guess there's the same things, I think, apply in the sense of, it's probably going to need, a network of people to kind of brainstorm around what the idea is, whether it's, whether there's actually a space for it. Like you might think there's a space for more,
Hmm. Hmm.
female staff, or you might think there's space for another podcast on this, but, have you spoken to other people about it? What appetite is there? And all of that kind of thing is quite important.
Yeah, yeah. No, exactly. And I think as well, it's one of the challenges that, we come up against because every year we need to go back to kind of our senior leaders and try and ask for more funding or, try and push it to go forward and things. And they're not just looking at it from oh, you're doing a nice thing. And, they're looking at it from a business perspective. Is this actually doing good for the business? What is it providing us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, um, yeah, it's kind of that sort of negotiation and navigating that can always be quite tricky. But again, it's great exposure.
And skill set wise, you're basically running a like small business within a business, and you're having to do a business plan and what's it achieved and what are we aiming to achieve and all of those things. So I think, skill set wise, it brings a whole different level of things to you. Um, so my other question was, has female folio expanded your professional network, and how do you think that might have benefited you?
Oh, absolutely. So as I mentioned, obviously we're trying to get more professional connections kind of within the events, which has always been great. And I think that kind of leads quite nicely onto meeting some brilliant, I have met some brilliant women who maybe not only have become clients, but then, they're solicitors and accountants that we can refer business in between. And so it's quite obvious as an advisor why that's then beneficial. And you're building just not your network that you can call on when you need help and refer clients to, your other trusted people that you can refer out, and then vice versa. They're hopefully going to be referring to you as well when they've got somebody that needs your help. So it's certainly been something, not just inviting them to the events, but again, the profile of, oh, I know Liv really likes or is really passionate about this, and I think she can really help you. That sort of thing can help. And that's the same with obviously everyone that helps with Brooks McDonald and is involved. So it's been brilliant. We've been great. It's been great having an excuse, I suppose, to get them in the same place and talking about this kind of thing.
And it's so much easier to talk about something that you're really passionate about
Oh,
than
definitely. And,
with like-minded people, people
exactly, with
want to
people
hear
who
more.
think, yeah, exactly, are kind of on those lines and believe it's just as important. And we're going to be starting to try and do some bits and bobs with like trying to bring your daughter along and things. So we're starting that journey a little bit earlier. And yeah, I know who doesn't want to try and do more of that. It provides a great excuse to get together and in a safe space to have these conversations.
So we know it's not been all smooth sailing, and you and I had a quick chat before we came on, but do you want to share, are you willing to share a sort of challenging moment you think, that's been pretty hard when managing both these roles that you've got, and how, well, hopefully you've overcome it.
Well, it's been obviously with having it part of Brooks McDonald, people do leave, and so that's always going to be, I think, a challenge. I think it's a challenge for most people. So um, we then go out and say, did anyone else want to join? And we've hopefully overcome it. And it's always good to get fresh perspectives as well. So that's always going to be a challenge. I'm obviously hinted as well to the kind of the different hats. So the regulation is always going to be something that I think we're going to be navigating. And yeah, I suppose every year again, it's just getting back in front of the right people to be talking about this and reinforcing why it's a good thing to carry on with, and what we're planning on doing with it, and how it's done well despite kind of maybe some of the challenges that we have had. And so I suppose it's kind of a flavor. And as for overcoming them, they're all obviously individual challenges that need different approaches, but I think generally we're getting there. And the solution, as I said, you may not always think is going to be that solution. Does that make sense? It might morph into something different, and to be okay with that and to kind of go with the flow a little bit and see, um, yeah, and kind of see how it goes, I suppose. Maybe that's just bad advice, but
No, I think like what I've been doing even with this group is like every year I've run it, I've sat down then and gone, right, what's next for next year? Are we going to make any tweaks? How are we going to make it better? What
Mhm.
what is it that people want? How are we going to deliver that? And I think being able to reflect on things and go, we can't, I'm a firm believer you can't sit still. There's no point in just like delivering the
Yeah,
same old, and whether it's working or not, you need to shake things up, because we're all given so much information nowadays, and there are lots and lots of different things we could be part of.
absolutely.
So yeah. And just final question then, it wasn't on the
Mm.
sheet, but tell me about how your clients and like some of your female clients, do you feel that it is working in alongside complementing what you're doing as an advisor to really empower them when thinking about money and investing? Like, can you kind of talk to me a bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's I think it does run quite nicely in parallel. It's obviously not really, really well known. So it's nice. It's like a little hidden gem that they can kind of access and feel like they're kind of part of a group that is maybe a bit special, which is lovely. And also, as advisors, we know that I really wish I could be there to answer every single question that they have all the time. And we all always anticipate and endeavor to do the best that we can with that. But it's nice that you're giving them kind of a source of knowledge that they can go and refer to themselves. And it might be that they come back and you have them more useful conversations with them because they've kind of gone up and done some reading and, oh yeah, I listened to your podcast about ethical investing. Can we talk a bit more about that? How can I introduce that into my portfolio? Or those sort of things that you're starting to have conversations with them about, but maybe we don't have all the time in the world to go through every single thing in minute detail. So having something you can refer out to, it runs really quite nicely along parallel. And also it's lovely when you can maybe get some of your clients all in the same room together discussing these sort of things, and they're facing the same challenges, they're not on their own. And I think that can hopefully be quite a nice experience for them too. So it's really complemented it.
Fab. Well, listen, Olivia, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Is there
Oh no,
anything
you're
you've
more than
thought
welcome.
of that you want to add or finish on, or?
Um, I suppose, I mean, head to the website, listen to some of the podcasts if you want to get an idea of what we're trying to do. Um, don't know what the future holds
Yeah.
yet. We're trying, kind of getting going with the flow and taking it as it comes. But yeah, more than happy to answer any questions. And just thanks again for having me and yeah, listening, I
No,
suppose.
thank you. It's been really good conversation, and never quite sure. People will listen. They'll all have their own things that they want to try and get from it, and take away from it. But I think that the guidance that you gave about if you want to do it, just like you've got to start
Just
somewhere,
do it.
just do it. And my bit would be just make sure you've got someone that you can throw ideas around with to start off with before you get all the details there to check that you think there's definitely that space for that project. And yeah, women are amazing at supporting other women. So,
Absolutely.
reach out, speak to someone else, talk to them, see if they're willing to do a little bit of volunteering towards your project. Everyone's got always, as far as I'm concerned, everyone's always very generous with their time, and
Mhm.
also hopefully will tell you no if they need to.
Yeah, won't waste your
Um,
time either.
yeah, exactly. So, no, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Livia. Um, I'm just reading this question.
Yeah, hi, Una.
Okay, so Yuna's been listening in, and she's working as a business secretary, and she's asking us about promotions, and that she hasn't been able to, quite get to where she wants to be. And she's been taking courses and expanding her skills, but hasn't found anything, that she, really wants to do or have the opportunity to get into those roles. I mean, to start off with, I would say that I have no idea what it's like where you are living, which is a big thing for us. I can only speak from the UK and what we're doing here, but I'm sure that Olivia and I will probably both agree that it's more about how you're positioning yourself, your profile, taking all the things you're doing the courses, the skills that you're trying to build up, and approaching companies that are, have open roles. Um, so I don't know other than that whether I would add anything else. But I really appreciate you listening today. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, and echo Gretchen. It's just, I suppose as well, if there's any events or, networking events and things that maybe you could be going along to that gets you in front of people who are doing either similar roles or could be looking for you, then
Especially
don't do
wanting
anything like
marketing
that.
and digital marketing,
Yeah,
the joy of that is you can do it from wherever you are. But I think it's probably around building a really great CV, making it stand out, and trying to approach people. And I think that's, the best advice I could give. So thank you everyone for listening today. That's the end of this session. If you do have any questions, by all means, reach out to me on LinkedIn or Olivia on LinkedIn. No doubt she'd be happy to answer questions too.
absolutely.
And I shall hopefully see you again next month, and where we'll be recording another session. So thank you.
Thank you so much.